The Beatitudes are a set of teachings by Jesus. They appear in the Sermon on the Mount, which is found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapters 5 to 7. These teachings are fundamental to Christian ethics and spirituality. They offer a pathway to true happiness and blessedness. Each Beatitude starts with "Blessed are" and is followed by a promise. The Beatitudes are counter-cultural. They turn worldly values upside down. Instead of power and prosperity, they highlight humility and righteousness. Jesus used these teachings to describe the kingdom of heaven. They teach us how to live as followers of Christ. Understanding the Beatitudes can transform our lives. They show us what it means to be truly blessed. They challenge us to adopt attitudes and behaviors that reflect God's love. Let's explore each Beatitude in detail and uncover their deeper meanings. These teachings are as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. They guide us on how to live in harmony with God's will. They also promise blessings both now and in the life to come. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is the first Beatitude. It speaks of spiritual humility. To be poor in spirit means to recognize our need for God. It means admitting that we can't do it all on our own. We need God's help and grace. This Beatitude contrasts with the world's view of self-sufficiency. Society often celebrates those who are independent and self-reliant. But Jesus tells us that true blessedness comes from depending on God. When we are humble, we open ourselves to God's kingdom. The promise attached to this Beatitude is profound. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This means that those who are humble will experience God's reign in their lives. They will be part of His eternal kingdom. They will find true joy and fulfillment. In practical terms, this Beatitude encourages us to seek God in all things. It reminds us to pray and ask for His guidance. It also teaches us to serve others with humility. When we do so, we reflect the values of the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. This Beatitude speaks to those who experience sorrow and loss. Mourning can come from many sources: the death of a loved one, personal failures, or even the state of the world. Jesus acknowledges our pain and promises comfort. In a world that often tries to avoid pain, this Beatitude is revolutionary. Society encourages us to pursue happiness and avoid suffering, but Jesus teaches that mourning is part of the human experience. He assures us that God is with us in our grief. The promise is that those who mourn will be comforted. This comfort comes from God's presence. It also comes from the hope of eternal life. In heaven, there will be no more tears or sorrow. God's comfort is both present and future. Practically, this Beatitude calls us to be compassionate. We should support those who are hurting. Offering a listening ear or a shoulder to cry on can bring God's comfort to others. It also encourages us to trust in God's promises even in the darkest times. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Meekness is often misunderstood as weakness, but in the biblical sense, meekness means strength, under control. It means being gentle and patient, even when we have the power to act otherwise. This Beatitude contrasts sharply with the world's values. Society often equates power with aggression and dominance, but Jesus teaches that true strength lies in gentleness. The meek are those who trust in God rather than their own power. The promise here is that the meek will inherit the earth. This means that those who are gentle and humble will receive God's blessings. They will enjoy the fullness of God's creation. This promise also points to the future, when God's kingdom will be fully realized on earth. In practical terms, this Beatitude encourages us to be gentle in our interactions. It calls us to respond with patience and kindness even in difficult situations. By doing so, we reflect God's character and bring His peace to the world. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. This beatitude speaks to our deepest desires. To hunger and thirst for righteousness means to seek justice and moral integrity. It means striving to do what is right in God's eyes in a world that often prioritizes personal gain. This beatitude is challenging. Society can be indifferent to justice and righteousness, but Jesus calls us to pursue these virtues passionately. He promises that our longing for righteousness will be fulfilled. The promise is satisfaction. Those who seek righteousness will find it. This satisfaction comes from living in accordance with God's will. It also comes from the assurance that God will ultimately bring justice to the world. Practically, this beatitude encourages us to act justly and stand up for what is right. It calls us to live with integrity in all aspects of our lives. By doing so, we contribute to a more just and righteous world. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Mercy involves compassion and forgiveness. It means showing kindness to others even when they don't deserve it. This beatitude highlights the importance of mercy in the Christian life. In a world that often seeks retribution, this teaching is radical. Society tends to emphasize justice over mercy. But Jesus calls us to be merciful. He teaches that showing mercy to others reflects God's own merciful nature. The promise is that the merciful will receive mercy. This means that those who show compassion will experience God's compassion. It also suggests that mercy begets mercy. When we are merciful, we inspire others to be merciful as well. Practically, this beatitude encourages us to forgive others. It calls us to be compassionate and understanding. By showing mercy, we become channels of God's grace in the world. We also experience the joy and peace that come from a merciful heart. Section 7. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Purity of heart means having a singular focus on God. It involves sincerity, integrity, and a desire for holiness. This beatitude emphasizes the importance of inner purity over outward appearances. In a world that often values image over substance, this teaching is profound. Society can be preoccupied with external success and recognition, but Jesus calls us to cultivate a pure heart. He teaches that true blessedness comes from within. The promise is that the pure in heart will see God. This means experiencing God's presence and favor. It also points to the ultimate reward of seeing God face to face in eternity. Purity of heart opens our eyes to God's beauty and truth. Practically, this beatitude encourages us to seek God with a sincere heart. It calls us to live with integrity and authenticity. By striving for purity of heart, we draw closer to God and reflect His holiness to the world. Section 8. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Peacemaking involves actively promoting peace and reconciliation. It means resolving conflicts and fostering harmony. This beatitude highlights the importance of peace in the Christian life. In a world often marked by division and conflict, this teaching is vital. Society can be quick to escalate disputes and hold grudges, but Jesus calls us to be peacemakers. He teaches that true blessedness comes from creating and maintaining peace. The promise is that peacemakers will be called sons of God. This means that those who promote peace reflect God's character. They are recognized as God's children. Peacemaking aligns us with God's mission of reconciliation. Practically, this beatitude encourages us to seek peaceful resolutions. It calls us to be agents of reconciliation in our relationships. By promoting peace, we embody God's love and contribute to a more harmonious world. To conclude, living the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes are more than just teachings. They are a way of life. They guide us in living according to God's values. Each Beatitude presents a paradox. They challenge our worldly perspectives and call us to a higher standard. Living the Beatitudes transforms us. It makes us more like Christ. It shapes our character and actions. By embodying these attitudes, we experience true blessedness. We also bring God's kingdom here on earth. The Beatitudes are timeless. They are relevant in every age and culture. They offer hope and guidance in a complex world. They remind us of God's promises and His call to live differently. As we strive to live by the Beatitudes, we become a blessing to others. We reflect God's love and grace. We contribute to a world that mirrors the kingdom of heaven. Let us embrace these teachings and live out their profound truths every day.